Well, hello and welcome to today's Confessions of a Global Changemaker. I am joined by the one and only amazing entrepreneur and clairvoyant. She's a medium who goes large across the world. She is the person behind so much support and energy in the businesses of people that you will meet, people that you know that are around you in the Brand Builders Club. Are talking about this fantastic lady because she has given some direct messages from places that we don't usually access, but you've got to be able to access that intuition. So today I want to get down and dirty with the amazing Fiona Dilston. Fiona, welcome. Hello to today's show.
Hello, Sammy. Thank you for having me.
Oh, Fiona, I think I'd like to take a different twist with today's confession show because, because, you know, I think you have such a varied experience and such an amazing history. And with all the stuff that you've gone and done, and you've been to festivals, you've done Glastonbury, you've given readings to so many people that have gone out and done the most amazing things with their life because they've been given the confidence and direction from you, following your intuition, but also supporting others to follow theirs. So what would you say, let's just dive straight in now. What would you say, you know, to those people who kind of follow their gut instinct and they kind of understand what their gut instinct is, but then they just ignore it? Like, how many of you are watching this now where you've had a massive like instinct to do something or not to do something, and then you did the opposite and it didn't work out for you? Fiona, you must see that happen quite a lot in your industry.
I see an awful lot of it. And I can even pinpoint times myself of doing stuff, getting involved with somebody at one point. And I knew, I could see the signs, but I was just like, this looks interesting. This looks good. There might be some mileage in this. I'm going to do this. And then you realize, then you kind of sit back and you go, why didn't I listen to myself? You know, what planet was I on? Why did I think that was something other than I knew it was?
And it comes back to bite you. And hindsight is such a wonderful thing, isn't it? Philippa, hello. For those of you joining us now, do come and say hi. Let us know your name and where you're from. And if you click on the link that with the StreamYard link that has gone out with this video, you'll be able to sign in. So I'll be able to see your name as well. So let's dig straight in, because Philippa's saying that Fiona is the best. And I had Amanda Froelich call me today whilst I was out walking my dogs. And she was like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe it. I've just had a reading with Fiona. And I was like, a reading with Fiona? This is a side to Fiona that I don't know about. So this is a brilliant opportunity for me to dig deeper into what it is you do and how you came to be where you are. But first of all, before we go into some of the history and how you got to doing what you're doing now, I'd love to know, like what is one of the most memorable readings you have ever done, where you've walked away from that and thought, oh my gosh, I don't even know where that came from? Like, has there been a time where you've just had such a download and you're like, that definitely didn't come through me?
I think there's been several times where I've adamantly told somebody that a relationship was absolutely no good. I've said to somebody, please don't. And they've been, oh, but he's lovely, he's this, he's that, he's the other. Then you come back and you find that there's a girlfriend, there's a wife, and there's 3 kids in the next village or something.
Oh my goodness me. So when you get these very strong downloads, like, so when you're, because, you know, with the difference between like clairaudient, clairvoyant. So as a clairvoyant, describe to us, like, what is the process? Do you see things? Do you?
I will.
Both?
I both. I mean, I'm quite clairaudient. I will get names. I will get places. And sometimes people will go to me, that's a load of rubbish. Then they will come back to me. The number of times I've had an apology where somebody said, I was really bloody rude to you, and hang about. you know, 3 years down the line, I'm now living with this bloke, Jeff, who's got the black dog called Rover or whatever else. And it's quite nice. I mean, it's realizing that sometimes somebody's not ready to hear what you've got to say. But what I like is when somebody is in the space where they've got some questions for you and they're saying, this is going on, what do you feel around this? And to be able to explore with somebody, look at things with somebody who's reasonably switched on. Because I certainly have never really done the standing at the front of a hall going, I've got a John, can anybody take a John? Because everybody can take a John. Everybody's got a relative or a boss or the bloke next door called John. And it just, you've got to have a kind of, how can I put it, a modicum of decency with it. Mm-hmm. You've got to be sensible. And to realise that you've been entrusted with big stuff.
You are, and that's what I was just about to say, is that, you know, these are big messages that are coming through, and they're, you know, it's lives on the other side of this.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I know I grew up with a clairvoyant. My grandma was clairvoyant, and so, you know, I would hear things and she would see them. And I remember her saying to me when I was young, or when I was older, about me when I was younger, and we were chatting one day before she died, and she said, "Do you remember when you were a little girl, you were shouting at Jack and Sarah?" And I said, "No," and I don't remember this at all. And she said, "Whenever I used to turn the vacuum cleaner on," she said, "you would always start shouting at them. You'd stop arguing. Will you stop arguing?" I just would like, wow. I could hear what was happening. She could see it. So of course she's vacuum cleaning and she's seeing this argument taking place between these two spirits somehow, and I'm like shouting at them. And it was very interesting because whenever we went on holiday, my aunt, she was 11 years older than me, so my mum's youngest sister, and we used to go to this farmhouse on holiday in Dorset. We used to go every year to this big farmhouse in Dorset. And I remember her saying, my grandma saying to me, you know, whenever you and Andy used to argue, the wardrobe would shake violently. Wow. So I've been surrounded by so many different things my entire life that it's kind of normal to me. But you know, to hear of somebody that actually has that skill and has honed that skill and has used that skill, I find that completely fascinating. I mean, are you able to switch off, or are you getting messages all the time?
I have to switch off, or I'd be gibbering in a psychiatric hospital somewhere. And one of the things I discovered, in fact, when I was pregnant with my daughter, and when my daughter was very, very little, was there's a very, very close link between the psychic and the psychiatric. And if somebody is a little bit unstable, they need to be careful. And if somebody opens themselves up too quickly with drugs, and that can be, you know, meds from the doctor as well, they can be going off at a total doolally tangent. I mean, my own mum did when she had meds when she was really ill, when she had quite serious painkillers. And yeah, you know, you've got to just sort of paddle between the two.
So you're mixing all of these different things as a brand. In your brand.
Yes.
You're mixing all of it. So you've got the homeopathy, you've got, you know, it's like where spirit and health really meet each other. You know, looking at the whole body and the whole spirit. I think that's fascinating.
Well, it's the only way I can do things. And I will have a spidey sense and I'll start looking things up and I'll go, yes. And, you know, I'll start asking some even further out and furrier questions than the average homeopath. And somebody will be going, why did you ask that? I'm going, I just had a hunch. And then I will find things slotting together. But I also found quite early on in my career doing readings, whatever else, that I could circumnavigate the counselling process really quite quickly by putting images in front of somebody and say, okay, I've got this. Can we talk about this? What does this have to say to you? Rather than 6 weeks of going around the houses.
Yeah.
And I could get in there, build a very quickly build a rapport with somebody, and, you know, be getting in there and solving things, you know, pretty damn quickly. And I think it's what it's about. And for a while, I went through a sort of, I'm going to deny that side of myself, because even in the homeopathic community, there's quite a lot of poo-pooing of the alternative. I mean, even during my training, there was a couple of occasions where I had lecturers actually having a dig, you know, sort of having a go, and I'm just like, okay, thank you. That really makes me feel good about myself. It actually says a lot more about you than about me.
Right. Well, I mean, you know, there's the thing is, you've got a lot of people that go and they learn how to do the you know, the homeopathy treatments, and you know that's academic. But when you don't have that spirit connection side as well, to be able to say, you know, look, we could try this for 6 weeks, and you could go and do this course of homeopathy treatments, and you could go do that. But actually, I'm being given a signal that there's something else going on, and I need to ask you about this question. We could just stop that 6 week thing, and we could deal with it now. Would that be okay with you? I mean, like, who's going to say no?
I'm not in the habit of asking anymore. I'm just like, you've come to me. You know the way I work. I don't want to mess about. If I can sort something out relatively quickly, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's not be taking however long, because life is too short.
Yeah. And so typically when you have a session with someone, then, because I believe you do everything online. It's not like people are in front of you. With people all over the world, aren't they?
Absolutely. If you come to me, you're basically getting me in this room in Edinburgh, or you might get me in my friend's front room in Stockport. That's as good as it gets. I have one patient that I see face to face, and you know, that's as good as it gets.
And is it easy enough to read? Like, what happens?
Oh, yeah.
I'm so intrigued by this process. But so, like, what happens? Do you know you've got this meeting with, you know, XYZ person, and like, do you channel in? Do you get that information before you go on the call with them, or is it like you're talking to them and all of a sudden you've got someone in front of you saying you need to get them to check this out?
I will take a few minutes to establish a connection with somebody. But generally speaking, I am in there pretty quickly. Because I mean, I cut my teeth with my readings, actually doing them in the healing area at Glastonbury Festival. And I think it would have been 93. And it was literally 3 or 4 minutes. Bing, 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 bing. This is what I'm getting. This is what's happening. That's where I feel things are going. Have you got a couple of questions for me? And, you know, just being in the zone with it. And I mean, sometimes I will do longer sessions with people if they've got a lot of stuff. But I find often that 45 minutes max is plenty. And, you know, things do come through quite quickly. But I like people to interact, to ask questions. I'll say to somebody, come with a list of questions. And the other thing is, I tend not to record or encourage people to record, because what can happen is you can end up with interference and a totally kind of buzzy noise in the reading, not being able to hear, because you are connecting with stuff from other places, so to speak. And just the energy involved in it can mess with internet connections, what have you. Thankfully it isn't now, but you know, I just like the whole thing of somebody doing a bit of the old school, having a pen and paper, having taken the time with the pen and paper beforehand, and then going home with their things written down.
Good old-fashioned pen and paper.
I just think it's quite crucial, because it means somebody has thought beforehand, what do I want to know?
Yeah,
They've put their energy in.
Productive. So I mean, I know of business owners that are coming to you that are getting focused on what are their next best steps for their business. I know people that are coming to you because they've had like a major crossroads in their life, and they're coming to you because it's like, you know, which way do I go? I remember when like many years ago, when I was going in a different direction, and I went to see a clairvoyant. And I mean, we must be going back to about 2011. And I remember going to see this clairvoyant, and I walked away feeling this massive sense of relief. It was so nice to know that I wasn't on my own, and that I remember her saying to me, your grandfather, when he died, he had a walking stick, but he never used to have a walking stick. I said, that's right. So, but towards the end, he had a walking stick. And I said, yes. And she said, he's handing it to you. He says, you need this more than him right now. He's handing it to you. And I was like, fuck. Like, how could she possibly have known that? There were so many things that she said. And I think she has crossed over now. I don't think she's with us anymore. But, you know, it was just such a sense of relief to know that actually, you know, when they go, they're not gone, and that they are around, and they are looking after us. I know Christine Wright, she regularly communicates with her dad, and, you know, she has this great connection with him, maybe even more so now than when he was alive.
I think so. I think it's often easier with some relatives, parents, you know, even for some friends, when they're in spirit rather than being face to face. I mean, I've, you know, jokingly said my dad has been more use perhaps since he's been in spirit, because he was a magistrate. And if there's anything legal, you know, I just kind of have a little word. And he's done a job or two, shall we say.
Brilliant.
It's just that level of, right, okay, what do you think here? Just be careful there, or we can deal it, we can do it. And I've had, you know, I've had sort of awful stories of like situations where people have, you know, accidentally done a hit and run because their head's been in a bad place. And they've been, you know, repeatedly phoning me when I was working years ago for a tarot line. And just to be able to say, look, take it slowly. I think you might get your license taken away, love, but you're not going to prison. And I think there is a great sort of honour almost in being able to not look after people, but support people, and sometimes just give people permission. Because I can remember years and years and years ago, travelling around Ireland doing readings, and I'd only taken like 40 quid with me. I had this mad trip on my own, and I was literally finding places, because there was lots of events happening, finding places, making money every day that would pay for my accommodation at night. And I connected with this lass who was struggling, and we chatted a bit and had a reading. She kept in touch with me for a couple of years afterwards, which I don't always do. And finally, this kid who'd had anorexia, who'd lost a parent, all the rest of it, she went off to art college. And it was something that had been like untenable for her before. But to have somebody outside of your normal remit be able to say to you, look, you've got skills there, that's possible. It's the permission giving thing for me.
Yeah, and it makes a difference. So, so what I want to know is, because this is a side to you that you haven't been forthcoming, certainly to me. I've known about the homeopathy side, and you've been talking very much about that. And especially as you went through the challenge, you won the challenge hands down. You joined Brand Builders Club. You've been going through the 7-step brand Kickstarter process to pull out all these messages and these amazing, like, positioning things around your brand, but this is a side that you haven't necessarily brought out yet. But in the last couple of days,
I've
got to bring this out. I can't keep this hidden anymore. And I'm so pleased you're making that decision. What was it that stopped you? What made you think I can't, or I don't want to bring this side of into my brand?
I think it's the whole thing of being a homeopath and this sense of, if you are doing that, you are not doing the profession any favors. And I've got to the point now where it's like there's other people, and I'm branding myself as me. I don't need to have necessarily the tag of homeopath to make me special. And I chatted with Kerry Bartlett yesterday.
Yeah.
And it was like, I knew. And then I thought, I really want to go to London, but I don't know where the hell the money's coming from.
Oh, our Members' Day, yes, in a few weeks.
Yes. And I, last night, yesterday, drew a line under the training side of my business. I refunded 2 ladies who were meant to be training in EFT with me, sent them both to a colleague of mine who's in the Northeast. And I just said, I'm not going to do stuff that doesn't make my heart sing. I'm not going to do stuff that doesn't make me happy. Because if you're not happy, you're not doing a good job of it.
Yeah.
It's like, if somebody miserable is baking you a cake, that cake is going to sink.
Yes, it's not going to be a good cake.
And, I like to feel that I'm giving my best. And I've just reached a point where I'm going, well, 2 weeks ago or something, I was in touch with one of my oldest friends that I actually met in the healing area at Glastonbury Festival in something like 88. And she said to me, oh, I've got a pitch. And I went, I'd quite like a pitch. And she went, well, look, here's the address, here's the email address, give it a go. Within 48 hours, it was like I was in. And this was like 15 years of not having been there. So I thought, hello, this is a little bit of a sign, Fiona. And I have my gentle piss take guru Fionanda thing that I put on my personal page.
Yeah.
And it's just like, hello, where's she been creeping in from? And it's this thing of just own yourself. For me, it's like, if you start denying bits of yourself, for me, that's when you start getting sick, because you're suppressing something, you're holding something back. And I think you've frozen, Sunny.
I haven't frozen. I was typing exactly what you just said, because I think that's a great message for everybody. It's time to own yourself. Stop denying yourself and holding yourself back. I think that's a brilliant message.
It's basically, you reach a certain point, and one of my dearest, closest friends said to me, what are you doing not teaching that EFT? And I said, it doesn't make me happy. And it's, I dearly love, the people I've taught, but there comes a point where things have got to change.
Yeah.
And you realize where you can touch the most hearts, where you can make the most connections. And it's not through teaching a small group of people. It's through, lots of connections, through one drop at a time, literally. And it's not enough for me to be, teaching people skills. I just feel that's somebody else's job now. And I popped up to the post office to post remedies out this afternoon, and I just remembered the history of art lecture I had years and years and years ago, and him saying to me something about he was teaching because he didn't have the confidence to be out there with his art and his graphics. And I just, yeah, it was just like, okay, this is what's going on.
So it's now time to shine. So literally, you've made this connection. You know, I remember when Judith Quinn made this same connection. Judith was at my house. Judith won the very first challenge that I ever ran back in 2017. And so just as you are going to, as part of your challenge winnings, you're going to come and spend some time with me on the boat, and we're going to work on your business. And I'm so pleased to hear you say, because it sounds to me like you've already got a load of clarity. So we're going to have some super productive time here on the boat. But Judith, at the time, I was living in France. So Judith came out, and as part of her winning the challenge, she came and spent time with me in France. And I remember her holding back the what she calls the woo-woo side of what she was doing, and she was holding that back because she was already working with some corporates, and she didn't want to give the corporate work up, but then she also really, really loved the woo-woo side of things. She was like, well, how can I bring it together? And we found a way of bringing everything together in one whole brand, and now she has Your Whole Voice as her business, and she was able to incorporate all of those things. So I think it's you know, when you're building that personal brand, it makes a massive difference when you bring your whole self to the business, because you've already heard it before. People do business with people that they know, like, and trust. They do business with people. And so, you know, if you don't bring your whole self, I never really understand when people have, you know, a different profile for this and a different profile for that. It's like, well, it seems to me like you're not bringing your whole self to this business. It's time for you to bring your whole self to it.
I think that is completely what I've struggled with. And it was like, oh, you can separate that bit off. And there is something about, if you separate something off, it's like the dog you keep outside.
Yeah.
There's something not very acceptable about that part of you. And I'm just like, well, it is part of me. And I can't deny it. And you just reach that point of that kind of self-acceptance. And it is what it is.
It is, and it's time for you to bring all of those things together. And, you know, when I was chatting to Amanda earlier, we were talking about you. She was like, we've got to get Fiona out there. She's amazing. You don't know what she's just done for me. I was like, well, I haven't had a reading for ages. I'm going to call Fiona. So I left Fiona a message and said, I didn't even know there was this side to you. Like, definitely, I want a reading for sure. You know, because I think it's so long since I've had one, and it's important to have that download. You know, you're too close to yourself to have that word with yourself. And if there's something that's been kind of giving you a nudge, or you're like, okay, well, I just wanted to sense check, am I going in the right direction, or is there something else that I'm meant to be doing? You know, and it's kind of like get that download and have that other opinion of somebody, you know, giving you that advice. And so, you know, for me, that's really important. But one of the things that I said to Amanda, and I'll say it to you now, Fiona, is if you think about what's happening in the world now, and there's never been a greater time than now for you to get out there and start branding yourself, bringing this whole area of expertise to the table. Who's the lady? Doreen Virtue. You know Doreen Virtue? Like, how many of you have heard of Doreen Virtue? Just give us a little yes in the comment if you've heard of her, or no if you haven't. Doreen Virtue was, I think, the most successful woman in this industry to productize angels, to productize how you could get messages, how you could listen to your divine intuition. She was the first person that I know of anyway that productized it. She had apps, she had angel cards. I mean, you know, they're all over the world. And she really crushed it. I mean, it was quite serious, competition if you tried to go into competition with her, up to a few years ago. But it was only recently that I found out that she has become a born again Christian.
I understand from an astrologer friend of mine that she actually had a particularly tricky time, and that was what made her deny that whole or need to need to let go of that particular stage and maybe find something different, something safer for her.
Well, I mean, I don't know, but she's literally, someone was telling me the other day that she's become a born again Christian. She's rejected all of the stuff that she ever built. She thinks it's satanic. She's branded it satanic. She's pulled everything back. She's stopped selling any of that stuff. And so, like, the biggest guru in that industry has totally left this enormous gap for Guru Fiona to get out there and start taking that place, because there are people that are craving that. There are people who believe in it, that don't believe it's satanic, that actually
it isn't satanic at all.
Not. Oh, just a little blip then. No, it is not. And but the thing is, it means that there's a hole in the market, and it's got a Fiona shaped gap there waiting for you to take it on. So I'm definitely going to encourage you at the Brand Builders Club Members Day in a few weeks in London to bring this to the table. We're at the Members Day, we're going to be focusing on how you productize, how you create your visibility strategy, and how you create your sales strategy. So they're the three key things that we're going to be working on when we're together in London. What is it? Is it the 15th to 17th or something like that of March?
No, 21st, 22nd, because it was when I was meant to be talking.
Yeah, the 20th to the 22nd. So I've got so many things that are going on in March. March is a crazy month, and then I fly from there to Miami to deliver that one. Out in Miami as well. So Fiona, there's no better time than now to get what you're doing out to the world. And those of you that are watching this now, you'd be surprised when you start doing some competitive research. Even those people that are like the biggest people in your industry, you just don't know. They might have changed direction. I know there's a couple of people who I would have considered competitors even up to maybe 3 or 4 months ago. But then I've heard on the grapevine that they've changed direction and they're doing different things now. And so, just keep an eye on what's happening in your industry, because there could be these enormous holes, these big gaps that are waiting for you to fill them.
I think there's been tremendous change with a lot of people since maybe mid-November. There's been big shifts going on.
What do you think it is?
I think that there's something about the Brexit word mess that has made people wobbly, and anybody who hasn't wobbled out has turned inside, and they have said to themselves, what do I need? What do I want? What are my core skills? What are my abilities? What have I got to give? And then you get other things going on, and the sense of how long has the planet got, or how long have we got? And I've got to do the best I can do with what I've got while things are unstable. I've got to do what makes me stable within myself. And for me, that's about being true to myself.
So it seems that now there is this massive consciousness around that question. It's like, am I living my purpose? Am I on the right path? Am I doing what I'm meant to be doing? Am I living my best life this lifetime? There's so many questions around that.
I mean, it's a complete sort of bing, bing, bing story to how I ended up at Vision, Voice and Visibility, because I went on a spirited business course at Findhorn. My husband came with me. I found myself going and making a flower essence, which I'd not done in, again, 14, 15 years. My husband is connecting me with somebody he was in Toastmasters with. This lady, Jane Duncan Rogers, connects me with Kay Newton. Kay Newton, I win her challenge. So I've got, you and my husband and I have got 4 days in Mallorca with Kay. And then, Kay says to me, there's this vision, voice and visibility thing. Go and talk to that Sammy woman. And what can I say?
The rest is history. And it's been a whirlwind. I mean, what's that, 3 months ago?
Oh, it was beginning of December. And it was so funny because there was a very dear friend of mine came with me. And I nearly went home the first morning because she drowned me with milky coffee.
Oh.
And I had to, and I thought, this is going to smell. This is not just like black coffee that I can get away with.
Oh, no. Oh,
so
no. She literally drowned you. I thought that was some kind of...
No, metaphor. This was not that. Luckily, I didn't look like I'd weed myself. It was just down one leg of the dungarees. So I took the excuse and I thought, right, okay, this means a shopping trip. I had to very rapidly flip it because this is a quantum shift for me to be sort of, playing with the big girls and boys. It's a huge thing from where I've been to now feeling, where am I going next?
Mm-hmm.
And just going, if something's not helping me, something's not making me happy, it's got to go.
Yeah, that's something that's a big non-negotiable for me. If it doesn't bring me joy and if it ain't fun, I can't do it. It's got to be fun and it's got to bring joy into whatever it is that I'm doing. And I think that's a key thing. Like, for those of you watching this now, what is your non-negotiable? Like, we just said, if it ain't fun, we're not doing it. If it doesn't bring me joy, I won't do it. What's your non-negotiable where it comes to life or to business? What's your mantra as such? Or what's the mantra you're going to create if you don't have one? Fiona, you also introduced me to Philippa as well. And Philippa's now a major part of the club. And I mean, what a great power team you are. And so many people have been impacted and influenced in a positive way because you are doing what you do. And it's time. I mean, just imagine like where you are now and how successful you are now. And that's without all the things that you're about to do. That's without any of that stuff. So, like the world is about to experience a big energetic shift, I believe, with you bringing your whole self into what you're doing and going out there and really being that brand that you want to see in the world. I think it's ready. It's ready for you, and I think you're ready for it.
It's been percolating for far too long.
Yeah. Well, it's time to brew, my darling.
Yeah.
We're going to get brewing in a couple of weeks at the Brand Builders Day. Fiona, thank you so much for joining us and for being willing to be so vulnerable. If there's one confession you'd like to leave everybody with as we start to wrap up this interview, one thing that you'd like to say to those people watching this either live or on the replay when it goes live later, what would you say to those people what experience, one thing that you've been through that you'd say, do you know what, it's okay. Here's what happened to me, and here's how I would do it differently next time, or here's how I navigated it, and this is how you can too. What would that one thing be?
Oh, you've put me on the spot. What would that one thing be? Yeah, I did. Yeah. The occasion where I was put on the spot, and this again is a lot of years ago, and I ended up doing readings at the place where I was born in Northumberland. My friend was the director of a MenCap home, and there was a clairvoyant lady who was meant to be turning up for the day. And yeah, my confession, I wasn't very confident. I hadn't been doing stuff very long. I was playing with tarot cards when I should have been studying my history of art degree in the evenings. And I ended up sitting there doing about 25 readings, just bing, 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 bing. And that, you know, that was the being thrown in at the deep end. I don't know if it's quite a confession, but it was, don't be afraid when there is an opportunity, even if you don't think you're going to be perfect, even if you don't think you're going to be able to fill every tiny bit of criteria. Because I think my thing is I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And then you look at what other people are doing, which is always a bad plan. To start comparing, have a look at what they're doing and go, interesting, but don't try not to compare.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just, yeah, JFDI, just do it.
What a great confession. I mean, you know, that's something of a theme actually that is running through the confessions from the entrepreneurs and the change makers that are coming on the show. Is, you know, there's this theme of, you know, that this perfectionism that we've had to let go of, because with it causes paralysis, and
Yeah.
it stops us from growing. It stops us from moving forward. And you know, I always say perfection is poverty, because it is. It literally, you know, it's better to be out there serving and making a difference than it is to be perfect and not doing anything and not being able to change anybody or be able to support other people. So, Fiona, I thank you very much for that confession, and thank you for making the time to be with us today on Confessions of a Global Change Maker. Guys, we are going to be back tomorrow. Now, for the next 3 days, I am going to be coming to you live from, where am I going to be for the next 3 days? It begins with B. I keep forgetting
in
what
Brighton, Sammy.
I'm going to be in Brighton. Thank you, Fiona. I keep thinking, no, it begins with B. I'm going to be in Brighton. Matt Wilson is running an incredible event in Brighton for the next 3 days. If you can make it, get yourselves to it. Ask me. I can give you a link to it. I'm actually the first speaker. I'm opening the event. I'm the first one.
Welcome.
So we're going to be really going deep on brand. I'm going to be working at a very deep level with the audience, because for them to be able to then start expanding what they're doing and take on all the other things that all the other speakers are going to be talking about, I'm going to get down and dirty on that foundation first. So they've got a foundation to use as a springboard for all those other amazing things. So I'm going to be coming to you live from, I believe it's the Hilton in Brighton. So that's where I'm going to be for the next 3 days. I'll be sneaking up to my room to go live and be with you. We have the amazing Burge Smith Lyons tomorrow. We're going live with Burge. Burge is an amazing mentor. She's a change maker. She's worked with many, many thousands, multiples of thousands of people all around the world. She has a foundation called the Healing Forest. I met her in Ecuador whilst we were on the second film location shoot for the Awakening Giants documentary. And so Burge became a firm family friend. She came over and spent a week with me at a retreat in France working on her brand. And now she's launched the Conscious Leadership Academy. So she's doing some amazing things, and I wanted to dig in deep and get some secrets from Burge and see the things that she's talking about tomorrow. So do come back and join us live at 5 p.m, the same time as we were here today. Come back and join us live at 5, and have an amazing evening, an amazing day, amazing morning, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. I will see you back here tomorrow. So take care, and I will see you there. Mwah. Thanks, Fiona.
Bye.
Bye.